Hello everybody and welcome back to Lost Planeswalker. You're here with me, Jesse, the Lost Planeswalker. Today I want to talk about Amonkhet and what's happened since we last saw it, the Phyrexian invasion, and then where it is going in the future. Amonkhet, long ravaged by the forces of the God Pharaoh, the War of the Spark, and the Phyrexian invasion, has endured a tumultuous history. The plane has suffered immense, and its once proud culture has been nearly forgotten by the multiverse. But now in Aetherdrift, it's a new chapter unfolds for Amonkhet, one of a self-aware and hope for the future. The plane is emerging from the depths of its past wounds, determined to take command of its own destiny. For the first time in ages, Amonkhet is not merely a plane in its twilight, but is a world that stands at the break of dawn, eager to chart a new course. The opening of the Omen Paths presents a unique opportunity for Amonkhet to reclaim its place in the multiverse, and the plane's leadership has chosen to engage with the outside world through participation in the Galliper Grand Prix. Amonkhet's entry to the race is a powerful statement. It's no longer a victim of external forces, but a plane eager to prove its strength, resilience, and vitality. The Galliper Grand Prix, course built on Amonkhet, will pass through its ruins and structures of Noctum, the great city that once served as the heart of the plane. These sacred and ancient monuments, steeped in the history of the rulers and gods, are not merely relics to be paved over, but represent the very foundation of Amonkhet's identity. Rather than erasing the past, the racecourse will weave through these ruins, allowing them to be honored and seen anew by its people of Amonkhet. While the course will pass through these monuments, the racers will also venture into Amonkhet's broken lands, vast, dry, and desolate landscapes that have been long untouched. The race will serve as an opportunity to probe the unknown parts of Amonkhet, a daring exploration of the world's most desolate corners. It is an invitation for life and fury to blaze a new path through the sands and see what, if anything, stirs beneath the surface. Amonkhet's hope is embodied in Champion Zahur, a leader who stands at the face of the plane's living and dead. Alongside him is a sparkless planeswalker, Bazirket, who, despite lacking a planeswalker spark, represents Amonkhet's enduring spirit and resilience. Together, Zahur and Bazirket carry the collective aspirations of Amonkhet's people as they enter the race with confidence. For the first time in a long while, the people of Amonkhet, both living and the dead, gather to celebrate and cheer not only out of fear, but out of hope. As the Grand Prix progress across their land, Amonkhet's citizens will fill the grandstands in a line of racecourses, united in the belief that victory is within their grasp. This event marks not only just a sporting competition, but a cultural rebirth, as Amonkhet stands ready to reclaim its place in the multiverse with pride, ambition, and renewed purpose. So let's dive into some more history about Noctimoon and the Lux Purified, talking about the Phyrexian invasion and Amonkhet's post-war rebirth. The Phyrexian invasion of Amonkhet, like so many other planes, was a cataclysmic event that brought together enemies for a common cause: survival. In Amonkhet, the center of the conflict was Noctimoon, the last stronghold of the living after the reign of Nicol and War of the Spark. Amonkhet had already endured the harshest trials with the collapse of Hekma in the dark times under Bolas's control. Yet, in the face of the Phyrexians, the gods of Amonkhet, including Hazaret, the Locust God, and the Scarab God, were forced to put aside their differences, marshaling a united force of the living and the dead. Together, they successfully repelled the Phyrexian onslaught, but the victory came with tremendous costs. With the collapse of Hekma, the magical barrier that kept Amonkhet's undead from freely wandering the plane was one of the most disastrous events that could have occurred during the invasion. However, Hazaret, alongside the Locust God and the Scarab God, led a valiant defense of Noctimoon, pushing back the Phyrexian forces. When the battle was won and the Phyrexians were driven from Amonkhet, the gods retreated, and Hazaret chose to stay behind and help rebuild the plane. Rather than pursue the retreating gods or reclaim the land for herself, Hazaret worked with the living and the remaining loyal undead to reconstruct Noctimoon and protect the city from further threats. The devastation left in the wake of the invasion was overwhelming. The city was in ruins, and the once vibrant Lux River had become fouled. The first major task of reconstruction was to defend Noctimoon from the wandering dead, those who had been corrupted by the waking curse during Bolas's reign. The breach of Hekma had allowed these souls to roam, driven by the last vestiges of their fated memories. They were drawn to the city, seeking to reclaim it as their own. The living defenders of Noctimoon, led by Hazaret and others, fought valiantly to hold back the tide of these wandering dead. Yet there's also a critical decision to be made by Amonkhet's undead. The newly risen undead, having died during the Phyrexian invasion, were no longer willing to accept their servitude under the old mummification process. They wanted freedom. At the same time, the loyal undead, those who had been mummified under Bolas's reign, understood the survival of the plane depended on cooperation between the living and the dead. Amonkhet could not thrive under the reign of undead alone, as they too decay over time. If the living were wiped out, the plane would wither into a barren wasteland. Faced with the existential threat of a future ruled by undead, the loyal undead approached the living defenders with a plea: free us and we will help preserve Noctimun. Recognizing the necessity of mutual cooperation for the survival of the plane, the living agreed, forming a pact that would lead to the defense of the city and the ultimate reconstruction of Noctimun. This alliance between the living and the loyal undead proved instrumental. Together, they successfully fended off the wandering dead, allowing the rebuilding process to begin in earnest. Noctimun's streets were cleared of debris, damaged buildings were repaired, and any structures that were beyond repair were torn down to make way for new growth. One of the most hopeful signs of Amonkhet's recovery was the cleansing of the Luxa. Once a symbol of the plane's decay, the river began to flow clear for the first time in ages, nourishing the land and bringing new life to the fields. Farmers worked alongside the banks, digging new irrigation canals to channel the fresh water into their crops, and the once silent lands were now filled with the sounds of work songs and the calls of hawkers selling their harvests. Greenery returned to the land and the city began to flourish once more. The reconstruction of Noctimun is still a long-term project, but the progress made since the end of the Phyrexian invasion has been monumental. Amonkhet's living and undead have come together to ensure the plane's survival, fighting side by side not just for their own sake, but for the future of the entire world. The shadows of tyranny that once cast a pale over Amonkhet has receded, replaced by a new dawn, a dawn of hope, unity, in the future in which both the living and dead have a place in the rebuilding of their world. As the people of Amonkhet look into the future, they see a world free of oppression and chaos, ready to reclaim their place in the multiverse and join the Grand Prix as a symbol of rebirth, a testament of their strength, resilience, and hope of a plane long in the shadows of tyrants. So now we're going to be looking at some new gods of Amonkhet. Fall of Hekhma, the magical barrier that once shielded Noctimun from external threats, was one of the most profound consequences of the Phyrexian invasion. With the collapse of this protective wall, the Amonkhet are now vulnerable, exposed to potential dangers from the broken lands. This newfound vulnerability is a grave concern for the living, who must defend their city against the hostile forces that may arise. However, this fall also brings a sense of freedom. The people of Amonkhet are no longer confined within the walls of Noctimun. For the first time, they can freely explore, venture out into the wilds of their plane, and reconnect with the long-lost history and untamed lands beyond their city. This twin desire to protect their home and venture into the unknown echoes as we rise of the two new deities, Ketramos, the Lion of Dawn, and Sabsun, the mother of the Luxa River. These gods, born from the struggles and hopes of the people, embody the dual spirit of defense and exploration. Ketramos, symbolizing a new dawn of Amonkhet, represents the strength they need to endure and protect their future. Sabsun emerged with the renowned flow of the Luxa River, signifying rebirth, growth, and the possibilities of new beginnings in the unknown. Together they walk alongside Hazoret, guiding the people of Amonkhet as they rebuild their world and reclaim the freedom they once lost under Bolas's tyranny. Now moving into the record of days. During Bolas's reign, the accounting of hours was the primary religious text of Amonkhet. Bolas erased Amonkhet's true history and placed it with a false narrative where he was the god pharaoh, manipulating the pantheon to serve him. Upon the revelation of his lies, the faith in Amonkhet was shattered. However, these people need faith to endure, and from the devastation of the hour of devastation in the Phyrexian invasion, a new text emerged, the record of days. This text blends the faith of the past with hope of the brighter future, charting a path to the collective gold era. The record of days reveals three deities: Hazoret, the known protector who remains distant from the people. Hazoret leads elite warriors on dangerous expeditions in the Broken Lands, seeking out the Locust God and the Scarab God, tracking rumors of the hidden Chitin Court, known as the God Seeker. Hazoret is revered yet feared. Sabsun, a new deity revered when the Luxa River surged after the Phyrexian invasion, cleansing Noctimun. Sabsun takes the form of a woman with a golden frog's head, symbolizing renewal. She emerged from the fertile lands, heralding a new life and growth. Ketramos, a god born from the resolve of the living and the undead, Amonkhet. Ketramos represents hope, solidarity, and endurance, a symbol of the breaking dawn. He is depicted as a young warrior with a golden lion's head, reminiscent of Oketra. He is the patron of both the living and the honored dead. Worship of Sabsun and Ketramos has blossomed. With new temples dedicated to them, these gods were cherished by the Amonkhet people, who see them as true protectors, gods born from their own struggles and aspirations. Untainted by Bolas's corruption, they are the deities of a new era, reflecting the strength and hope of people determined to forge a better future. future. Now moving into the Broken Lands, the Monarchs, and the Chitin Court, we have the Broken Lands, a vast and desolate expanse beyond Noctmoon. These are harsh, sun-bleached wastelands of dry sand, shifting dunes, and the remnants of ancient ruins. It is a place haunted by the dead and monstrous creatures and the lingering memory of past horrors. For generations, the people of Amonkhet were taught to fear these lands, seeing them as a dangerous, cursed wasteland. However, after years of living with the remnant of the Phyrexian invasion in the aftermath of Bolas's reign, the Amonkhet people have come to realize the truth. The Broken Lands are not a place of fear, but one that needs healed, just like the rest of Amonkhet. While the lands still hold deadly dangers, ruins that are concealed forgotten secrets, and haunted tombs, the long-buried cities, the people have learned that facing these challenges is the only way to restore their world. No longer does Amonkhet shrink from the ghosts and remnants of the past. Instead, under the guidance of the gods and champions, volunteers venture out of the safety of Noctmoon, determined to find their lost kin, uncover ancient ruins, and seek answers to the mysteries that the sands conceal. The Broken Lands are full of tombs, memorials of former kings and queens, champions elevated to the status of demigods, and cities long buried beneath the desert sands. In this land, the dead outnumber the living, but rather than a curse, it is a reminder of the necessity of bravery in the face of the past. Among the ruins, even smaller groups of nomads, living in undead, have found a way to coexist. The living are protected and cared for by the undead, and in turn, the undead are revered. Their actions no longer viewed as monstrous, but as vital to the survival of rebuilding of Amonkhet. These relationships between the living and the dead in the Broken Lands are complex and marked by both reverence and mutual necessity, forging new paths in the future of Amonkhet. The monarch dead of Amonkhet are a scattered and tumultuous force, hailing from the early epochs of Bolas's reign and long before, when the once ruled vast kingdoms across the plain. Sealed away in the tombs throughout the Broken Lands, they have been dormant for uncountable ages, only to awaken now to find the world changed. Their thrones are now crowded with rivals and dynastic descendants, and the once great border of their lands are now buried beneath the ever-shifting sand. In their wake, a new city, Noctmoon, has flourished along the Luxa, the one constant in a shifting world. This strange, vibrant city built by the living now stand in stark contrast to their abandoned, decaying domains. While these monarchs vastly outnumber the living in Noctmoon and the champions of the new Amonkhet, they are unable to present a unified front. Instead, they are locked in a ceaseless conflict, warring amongst themselves for supremacy, each vying to claim the title of de facto ruler of Amonkhet. Despite their internal struggles, they share one dangerous and binding allegiance. Nearly all of the monarchs are loyal to the Chitin Court. This shadowy, enigmatic faction is a growing power in the Broken Land, and their influence over the monarch dead poses a grave threat to the future of the newly reborn Amonkhet. As the monarchs fight for dominance, their shared connection to the Chitin Court represents a looming danger, one that could destabilize the leading order being forged by the living, the gods, and the dead working together. So let's learn more about the Chitin Court. The Locust God and the Scarab God, remnants of the once powerful Chitin Court, still linger on Amonkhet. Though reduced in power, they remain divine beings, feeding off the cults that gather in the remote oases and forgotten corners of the plain. Their worshippers are the dead of Bolas's era, including the Lazotep-enhanced Eternals and the countless undead that haunt the Broken Land. The most formidable of their old followers are the Old Monarchs. The pre-Bolas rulers of ancient tombs dot the desolated landscape. These monarchs considered the Locust God and Scarab God to be the true gods of Amonkhet, rejecting the new pantheon of deities that have arisen after the fall of Bolas. Though the monarchs and their followers provide enough of a well to sustain the Chitin Court divinity, the gods have yet to regain their full strength. They bide their time waiting to revive their long-dead siblings, honoring their power and building new legions from the pre-Bolas dead. To the gods of the Chitin Court, the newly emerged deities, Hazaret, Sabasun, and Ketramos, are nothing more than abomination. The Chitin Court views them as the twisted creations of Bolas, either literally or through the land's taint, and as false gods not worthy of Amonkhet. The Chitin Court vision is long and patient. They plan to gather their faithful, strengthen their orders, and resurrect their fallen brethren. Only when they have restored to their full power will they take back the plane they once ruled. Whispers spread through Amonkhet of dark signs in the Broken Lands, foretelling the Chitin Court return. These signs include the shedding of insect skins drifting through the dunes like dry rivers, shadowy forms of the Locust God and Scarab God seen amidst empty tombs of ancient kings, discovered from the inside, their sarcophagi shattered, and their weapon racks disturbed. For now, these omens are not widely heeded, but the people of Amonkhet are beginning to notice. In time, the leaders of Noctimoon and the gods will hear the whispers too, if they have not already. On Amonkhet, the boundary between life and death is not defined by metaphysical distinction, but by class and societal roles. The dead walk, work, and serve alongside the living. Once enslaved under Nicol Bolas's reign, they now enjoy a hard-won freedom. Despite outnumbering the living, they understand that the future of Amonkhet depends on the continual survival and reproduction of the living. The curse of wandering, an ancient magic but from before Bolas reigns, keeps the dead from truly resting. They walk as the undead until they decay into bone and dust, but they do not grow. Only the living can ensure the plane's future. During the Phyrexian invasion, the curse of wandering proved a strange blessing. The dead surged to defend Amonkhet, including the long-forgotten dead of the Broken Lands, who emerged from the ancient tombs led by former kings, queens, and demigod heroes. Their strength helped sweep the weakened Phyrexians from the plane. The dead, who once served the living under Bolas's control, now assist in raising new generations in the wake of the violence that nearly destroyed their world. Without Bolas's influence, the dead care for orphans, tend to the healing fields, and labor alongside by side with the living. The living in turn view the dead as wise teachers and protectors, realizing without the dead's help, Amonkhet would wither. Yet there remains much work to be done. The living must humble themselves, acknowledging their past oppression of the dead. The dead in turn must learn to forgive. Both sides must face the truth that they once were pawns in Bolas's dark will, but now their actions will be their own. The process of reconciliation is uneven, as it involves navigating the complexities and old loyalties and new relationships. The undead monarchs that once ruled over Amonkhet have begun to adjust to this new world. Some have accepted their place in this new order and work alongside the living. Others, however, have retreated to their ancient tombs in the tombs before time, deep within the Broken Land. There they plot their return to power, holding councils and waging war against one another. These ancient rulers engage in bitter dynastic struggles, throwing legions of undead against each other in endless conflicts, while waiting for the right moment to reclaim their throne. Amonkhet has been through a lot, and it looks like in the future they may expect another revolution to take over the desert plain, but this will have to wait for another day. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video outlining the changes in the new world of Amonkhet. Please let me know what you think of these changes, and if you have any questions about Amonkhet in general. If you would like me to help support me in another way, please leave a like, share this video with a friend, and subscribe. And if you enjoy the videos I make, check out my Patreon. That'd be awesome. Now today's Scryfall card of the day is Slaughter the Strong. It was a big day for the gravediggers at Cliffside Cemetery. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you later, Planeswalkers.